check with Lisa.
All right, good morning, everyone. We'll go ahead and get started. Thank you for all for joining us this morning. Welcome to the MetroPlan TSMO meeting. I will call the meeting to order. My name is Ramon Centerins, and I'll be chairing the meeting today. Just as a reminder, since this meeting and our future meetings will be in person, it is important for all TSMO members to attend our meetings in person for us to have a quorum. Members of the public will still be able to participate virtually, and we encourage them to do so. There are 2 public comment points in the meeting. Members of the public who want to speak need to fill out a comment card and give that to Lisa. Those attending virtually who want to speak will use the raise hands feature on the Zoom screen. If you're attending by phone, you can hit *9 to raise your hand and request to be recognized. When you're called, your microphone will be temporarily unmuted by staff and will ask you to state your name and contact information for the record. We also accepted comments by email and phone message before the meeting. So before I recognize Mr. Eric Hill, just like to say, hope everyone had a nice holiday last month. Joyful time with the company of friends and family. Also, now that we're at the end of the year, it's a time to reflect back and think of everything that happened throughout the year. And even looking at this meeting, we first started off in a virtual setting for the first meeting. Correct, right? Yeah. And then transitioning back into in-person meetings was still a little bit of difficult for a lot of us, but I'm glad that we're all here in person, able to work together, and we definitely have come a long way in just a few short months. So with that, I'll recognize Mr. Eric Hill.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, committee members. I trusted everyone when you entered this boardroom saw the world famous MetroPlan Orlando calendars. They're at the table over here. Please take one. I know it's treasured. Take them now because they're really hot. So you may not get a second chance. And then secondly, I've known many of the faces here for a number of years. And you've all heard me give presentations, and know I like to tell stories. And I have, in earlier part of my life, been very active in sports. And one of the things you learn about, organized sports, team sports, is you develop relationships with the players. And, there's always that like knowing glance of doing something, and you both pick it up. Well, that's something that, I've observed here working at MetroPlan Orlando with one particular person, Keith Caskey. Everyone knows Keith, but Keith has been with MetroPlan Orlando for 40 years. And this is his last TSMO meeting because Keith is retiring. And I want us all to acknowledge the work that Keith has done, not only for MetroPlan Orlando, but for all of us as partners, as teammates. Because I'm sure he has given you, or you've given him, a knowing glance on a project or something, and he has been there for you. So I want to recognize Keith Caskey and ask if we just stand and just recognize his achievement in life. Keith, I bet you did not know I saw you that way, but I do, and I always have. And thank you. So with that, Mr. Chairman, we can proceed with the agenda.
Okay, thank you for that agenda review. And like Eric said, we definitely appreciate your commitment and dedication and service to MetroPlan and in the Central Florida region for all those years. Great accomplishment. Thank you. All right, now we'll move on to the roll call. Ms. Smith.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. I'll ask all committee members to keep your microphones off until call. Please say here or present when your name is called. Atkins. Barden.
Here.
Doig.
Here.
Broad. Bates, Carson, Edie, El Hassar, Elliot Moore, Felblinger,
Here.
Friel, Gordon, Herschelman,
Present.
Homiani, Jameson,
Present.
Dredge, Hudson,
Present.
Krug, Kane,
Present.
DeVries for Giovinazzo,
Present.
Lim,
Here.
Margraff,
Here.
McDaniel, Pulliam,
Here.
Richmond, Sanders,
Here.
Sonoran,
Here.
Smith,
Here.
Wetzel.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes the roll call, and we do have a quorum physically present.
Fantastic. Thank you, Lisa. All right, we'll now hear public comments on the action items. We ask you to provide your name and address for the record, and please hold your comments to 2 minutes or less. If any members of the public wish to comment and are joining us virtually, please use the raise hand function and you'll be recognized, or dial *9 on your phone keypad. We will send you a prompt to unmute your microphone. We have anyone joining us virtually who'd like to make a comment this time?
There are no hands raised on the virtual side, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Kathy. Do we have any members of the public attending in person who'd like to make a public comment?
I have not received any speaker cards.
All right. All right, moving on to our first action item. We've got 4 this morning. First one is approval of the October 28th TSMO meeting minutes. Further information you will find in tab 1 of your agenda packets. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Second, Kane.
I got a first and a second. Any discussion? Is a voice vote? All those who are joining us virtually, please unmute your microphone. And then everyone in the room. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Our next agenda item for our action item is the FDOT amendment to fiscal year 22-23 to 26-27 TIP. More further information you will find in tab 2. And we will, Mr. Keith Caskey will give us a presentation.
Okay, good morning. This TIP amendment request includes 3 transit projects and involves additional funding for Lynx's existing limo upgrade project. And then there's a new project for Lynx to purchase 20 electric vehicles and 5 electric NeighborLink. 20 electric buses and 5 electric NeighborLink vehicles, as well as putting in new charging stations. And then there's a new Lynx planning study for locating bus rapid transit stations and transit-oriented development along State Road 436 down near Orlando International Airport. And as the chairman said, you all have the information on this in tab 2. So with that, unless there's any questions, we're asking for your approval of the amendment.
Any questions from Mr. Caskey? All right, no questions. All right, looking for a motion to approve the amendment.
Chairman. Michael, Mike.
Mr. Chairman, Sanders moves to approve the amendment.
Chad Smith, second.
Thank you. Got a motion. Got a first and a second. Any discussion? All right, this is voice vote. Please unmute your microphones. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you, Keith. All right, moving on to action item C, amendment to the 2045 MTP. Ms. Taylor Rent from Metro Plan will be providing a presentation. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. And could we bring up the slides, please? Okay, we'll go audible. The list of the proposed revisions is included in your agendas under tab 3 if you'd like to follow along there. So beginning with the overview of the proposed revisions, I'd like to remind everyone that there are two key terms that we'll be hearing today: modification and amendment. So the word modification is meant to represent minor changes to the 2045 Metropolitan Transportation Plan, whereas amendment represents larger or more significant changes. Now, despite these two very different definitions, we are going to be taking both the modifications and amendments through the exact same process, reviewing them today, discussing them, and asking for your recommendation for approval of the revisions. So I will put this down so I don't slip to other slides by mistake. Now going through the proposed revision themselves, working through item number 1 in your agendas, the modification is a proposal for a TIP refresh. So when I say that, we're referencing the first 5 years of the cost feasible plan, which is the representation of our TIP document. So we've gone through and updated and maintained this working list to be consistent with our TIP. So what we're presenting today is a modification to continue with that annual refresh and maintain consistency between our two documents. The second revision is an amendment that we're proposing to incorporate new federal revenues that have been allocated to our region through the IIJA legislation. The first are additional TMA funds being allocated to our area, and the second are carbon reduction funds that are being added. So we're estimating over the next 10 years that those two additional funding sources will provide about $54.5 million total over the next 10 years. And that will be allocated equally between our complete streets, cost feasible needs list, bicycle and pedestrian project needs list, and our TSMO and ITS project needs. With the addition of this new funding, we are able to make 11 projects newly cost feasible. Moving to revision number 3 in your agenda packet, we are proposing an additional amendment to directly reference some federal discretionary grant awards that have been awarded to several of our partners throughout the region. Those are listed in your agenda packets. And we're doing this for planning consistency with our partners as they're accepting that funding. So with these, this amendment, there would not be any changes to our proposed cost feasibility. Okay, moving on to amendment number 4 in your agenda packets. This would be an amendment to split the Poinciana Parkway project into multiple implementation phases. It is currently listed as a need in our cost feasible plan, and this amendment is purely to split it up into multiple phases to better match the implementations schedule planned by both the Florida Turnpike Enterprise as well as the Central Florida Expressway Authority. There would be no changes to cost feasibility with this amendment. So then moving on to item number 5, this is an amendment to incorporate a new project into the cost feasible plan. This new project would be performed in coordination with the Poinciana Parkway project by the Central Florida Expressway Authority. And it would be on County Road 532, Osceola Polk County Line Road from South Lake Wilson Road to US 1792. So with the addition of this project to the cost feasible plan, we are still not expecting any changes to other projects' existing cost feasibility status. And then going on to the last item in your agenda, item number 6 is a compilation of amendments and modifications purely for planning consistency. These have been requested by our local partners throughout the year, and we're going to make those updates for modifications as well as amendments. And I'll go through and kind of briefly describe those since they are listed in your agenda packets, again, under tab 3. The modifications largely consist of revisions to project descriptions to more appropriately reflect the planned improvements within the areas if those scopes have changed. The majority that you'll see listed in your agenda packet is a change in description to include the word safety improvements or operational and safety improvements. The second type of modification you'll see are revisions to include local roadway names in addition to state and county road designations to make our list a little easier to navigate. And the third type of revision is moving needs between our different cost feasibility lists to better represent the implementing agencies of these different projects. When it comes to the amendments under item number 6, these are predominantly adjustments to project limits, either extending a project to include another additional intersection or a little bit further, or pivoting slightly to create additional phasing of those existing projects. There's also been a little bit of cleanup to remove duplicate project needs that have either been incorporated into other ongoing or planned work efforts. So all of these modifications and amendments that I've described under item number 6 are administrative in nature. There are no impacts to existing cost feasibility. So with that, I'll be here to answer any questions that you may have about these different items, but we are requesting a recommendation for approval of the plan revisions as they've been presented today and in your agenda packets.
Thank you, Ms. Laurent. Any questions? I saw Josh. Go ahead.
So on table 12, since we're doing some cleanup, I did notice that there's complete streets for Poinciana Boulevard, project 4020. That's currently part of a separately funded widening project. So I think it can be removed from the complete streets if we're able to with this process. We can have it open anyways.
Yes, thank you. I'll make that note.
Thank you. We have someone else over here? Oh,
Yeah.
Chad.
I was just curious, you in the second one, which is tables 11, 12, 13, you mentioned a dollar amount. I didn't exactly hear what it was. How much were you anticipating for that?
Over the next 10 years, we're anticipating about $54.5 million.
54.5. Okay.
Yes, total. I wish I could say that was per year, but no.
Well, I heard 4.5 million. I was like, that can't be right. So, okay, that's good.
Any other questions? All right, this is an action item to look for a motion to approve the amendments to 2045 MTP. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve with removal of Poinciana project 4020 from the complete streets table.
Okay, we have a motion with that recommendation. We have a second.
Second, Kane.
I got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, this is a voice vote. Please unmute your microphones. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing, seeing none. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, before Taylor
ahead.
leaves the podium, I apologize because her slides are not in the presentation deck. But I want everyone to know that we'll send them out to you. But I also want to apologize to Taylor that we didn't have her presentation in the deck. But she did a wonderful job out there. Thanks.
Thank you. Did a good job on fly. All right. All right, last action item for the morning. We have the election of the officers for 2023 for the chair and vice chair positions. We have Charlie Wetzel with Seminole County will be presenting the recommendations for those positions. Mr. Wetzel.
All right, good morning. Yesterday, subcommittee met. The subcommittee consisted of myself, Lindsay from Osceola County, and Haslam from Orange County. We met yesterday virtually and discussed the nominations for chair and vice chair. Typically, what we do is the vice chair from this year would be the chair for next year. So our nomination for chairman for next year would be Shad Smith from Longwood.
All right,
Chad, would you accept the nomination?
Yes, I do accept the nomination. Thank you.
okay, I guess what we can do is, we can go ahead and vote on this first. Actually, are there any other nominations for the TSMO chair for 2023? Anyone would like to nominate? All right, hearing none, seeing none. So what we'll do is go ahead and have a motion to approve the nomination of Shad Smith for the TSMO chairman for 2023. Do I have a motion to approve?
Second, Jamison.
All right, I have a motion, I have a second. Do we have any other discussions? All right, this is a voice vote. Please unmute your microphones. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none. Congratulations, Mr. Smith.
Okay, so then for vice, typically what we do is rotate the various officers between the 3 different counties and also an operational agency. And we also look at the attendance of the potential candidates over the last year. So there were several candidates who had perfect attendance. And our situation was 7 meetings for 2022. And kind of looking at the past history of the chairman and vice chairman positions and where they came from, it was deemed to be Orange County, their turn. So we kind of looked at the Orange County members with attendance records, and our recommendation and our nomination for vice chair is Brian Sanders from Orange County. So I'd be looking to confirm that nomination and also ask, I guess, if there's any others nomination.
Want to thank you for the nominating committee. I appreciate the nomination and I accept.
Appreciate your acceptance. All right, so before we do that, do we have any other nominations for the vice chair position for TSMO of 2023? All right, if you can see none, we'll go ahead and move on to a vote. Looking for a motion to approve Mr. Sanders with Orange County to assume the vice chair position for 2023 of TSMO. Do I have a motion to approve?
Shad Smith, second.
All right, I have a first and a second. Any discussion? This is a voice vote. Please unmute your microphones. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion is approved. Thank you, Mrs. Sanders, for taking that position. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Wetzel. Appreciate it. All right, moving on now to the presentations and status reports. We have one presentation today, and please hold your questions until the end of the presentation. First presentation will be by Mr. Eric Hill on the Metroplan Orlando TSMO Master Plan update.
Okay, good morning again. This will be the first presentation in a series of presentations that we will be presenting on the TSMO Master Plan. This morning, I have with me Jim Woods from Kimley Horn, who will be serving as all 3 of my lifelines in case there are questions that you have that I cannot respond to. We have had established a steering committee for this project. We've had 2 meetings, June 29th and then October the 4th. And the purpose of this master plan is to move our TSMO program forward. We've had what I would consider considerable success with advancing TSMO within the Metroplan Orlando planning area and within District 5. So we want to continue in that way. We certainly believe we can do that. So the steering committee Here's the list of members. I'm pretty sure everyone is familiar with everyone that's on this committee. Very grateful that they have all agreed to participate and contribute information and carry the load with us as we move forward. So the first meeting was, and this is, my reference to the fact that I am a big fan of Law and Order, and they talk about discovery in cases. So this was our discovery. And this was to look at and review, go through the scope of work, identify key documents, and then establish roles and responsibilities. While we do want to lean on Kimberly Horn to develop this for us, we certainly want to participate. We want to make it something that we're all part of and something we all contribute to. So the vision, goals, and objectives. This is the vision, and it's taken from many documents within our own library of knowledge, mainly our 2045 Metropolitan Transportation Plan, the former ITS Master Plan, and then District 5's TSMO Master Plan. So it wasn't something that we just conjured up. It was something that we had some discussion on and developed. The goals are probably familiar to everyone because they're closely aligned with 2045 Metropolitan Transportation Plan. Safety and security, certainly that is key to what we as transportation agencies are responsible for on our transportation network. Reliability and performance. How do we make sure that not only we are moving people and goods, but we are doing it in a way that we can all agree that is successful. Investment in economy. Many of you remember Harry Barley, our former executive director. And I remember one of the things that he ingrained in me early was transportation is economic development. And so we certainly see TSMO strategies as helping our economy. Access and connectivity, that's communication, information technology. That's the TSMO realm. And this is where we certainly believe we can do more in. And if I can just, step aside for a second and refer to a text that I recently read called Autorama by Dr. Peter Norton from Virginia, University of Virginia. And the thesis is how far we will get with self-driving vehicles and what role they will play in our transportation ecosystem, and not to make it a big portion of the ecosystem, but to make sure it has its place and it's balanced. And that's where we believe that TSMO needs to be. It's not the cure-all, it's not the silver bullet, but we certainly believe it has a role and it should be balanced with the other modes, transit, pedestrian facilities, certainly, remote working, but the automobile as well. Okay, so I'm back now. So health and environment, we certainly believe the first four tie into this last item. So the second meeting, we spoke about existing conditions, and this is a list of all the items that we have assembled thus far. You see that it's mostly the operating agencies in the counties in the city of Orlando, but we certainly have also collected information from the other jurisdictions that maintain and operate their transportation network. So while this may not look comprehensive, there is a subgroup of information that we have also collected. In terms of needs, we developed this definition of what we call TSMO needs. We want to identify resources and opportunities to expand our transportation network through the TSMO I. And the 2 points of emphasis is what TSMO needs we have identified for today. But the second one, I believe, is one that we can certainly take advantage of, giving all the grant opportunities in the federal bill. I've asked the Kim Horn team to keep that in mind as we're developing strategies, as we're developing projects and programs, to look at that through the vision of how can we take advantage of leveraging those federal opportunities. Here's a overview of the master plan schedule. You'll see that we have 10 tasks. The one that I want to, if I could call out for a moment, Mr. Chairman, and that's task 7. That's agency and public participation. Now, I certainly believe that there's an opportunity for us to be a little innovative with this work. And again, I'll refer back to something that many of you have probably heard me say is, there's a former US DOT Secretary, Anthony Fox, who talked about how the interstate system just tore up or separated his community in Charlotte, the city of Charlotte, from downtown Charlotte. And he had advised us not to let technology do the same thing. And so we want to certainly have more public engagement with TSMO because, most of the citizens don't know that part of the transportation ecosystem. They know roads, they know cars, they know buses and trains, but when they are going through an intersection, some of them are unaware of, what happens as that vehicle that they're driving or operating goes through the intersection, what happens, how we are communicating with the vehicle and with the network. So we want to do more in terms of engaging our community. And that is in particular the underserved communities. And to me, that's a euphemism for some of the history that we have experienced in the transportation industry in terms of environmental justice, impacts on low-income and minority communities. So we want to certainly keep that as something we want to touch the community with. Here's a follow-up on the schedule, at least on things that we've accomplished and achieved. And here are the list of the meetings that we will be moving forward with. We anticipate wrapping this up around next fall, October timeframe, completely wrapping it up. And we want this to serve as a link to the update of our next metropolitan transportation plan. So as we complete this, this is certainly something that can flow into that project. Okay, next steps, we'll continue to work on needs. We'll be looking at the architecture and developing strategies. And Mr. Chairman, that completes my presentation, and we'll address any questions.
Thank you, Eric. Any questions for Eric on the master plan update? All right, no questions. Did a great job. Thank you. All right, that was our only presentation today. Next on the common presentations and status updates, we do have 2 presentations that will be brought up at the TAC meeting. First one is a presentation on the Rock Springs Road and West Orange Trail projects. And the next one is the presentation on fiscal year 23-24 to 27-28 tentative 5-year work program. So please stick around for those presentations during the TAC meeting. All right, moving on to general information. You'll find further information in tab 4 in your packets. Our next upcoming meeting of interest, we have the Metro Plan Board meeting will be held here on December 14th at 9 a.m. The next time we meet for the TSMO meeting will be here in person on January 27th in 2023 at 8:30 a.m. Followed by there's an active transportation workshop after the TAC meeting. That's the type. Oh, disregard. All right. So just those two upcoming meetings of interest. Next, moving on to member comments. Any committee members who have any final comments? I'll ask members joining us virtually. Any final comments?
There are no hands raised on the virtual side, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Mr. Jameson, go ahead, please.
Mr. Chair, I just want to say thank you for leading us for a year. It was very much appreciated.
Thank you, appreciate that. Any other comments? Committee members? All right, so now we move on to the second point of the public comments. If any members of the public that wish to comment, please use the raise hands function, you'll be recognized, or $9 on your phone keypad. We'll unmute your mic. After you are recognized, please state your name and address for the record and limit your comment to 2 minutes or less. Do we have anyone joining us virtually who would like to make a comment at this time?
No, there are no hands raised on the virtual side, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Kathy. Do we have anyone in the public wishing to make a comment?
I have not received any.
No comments, all right. Well, with that, before we adjourn, and I end my term as the chair for the TSMO committee and pass on the gavel to Mr. Shad Smith. Just want to thank everyone's support throughout this past year, especially Metro Plan have made it very simple and easy, providing guidance and support through the whole process. So it was pretty easy, pretty simple. But just thank you for everyone's support and all committee members for providing their thoughts and inputs, and appreciate everyone showing up to our meetings. It's very important for us to have a quorum every meeting. So with that, just want to wish everyone a nice holiday season and enjoy some time off and time to reflect back in the last year. Looking forward to a new year and new challenges and moving forward to working together to enhance our transportation system here in the Central Florida region. So with that, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.